I use competitions and events where I have like a table to sell my comics as a deadline for producing new work. Every time I basically pretend that I have like a very dedicated fan that goes to every single table, and even though like I don't make that much money from the table or anything like that, and also printing costs money and all that sort of stuff, if I don't use those as deadlines, then nothing will get done ever. So with the long-term project, so the longest comic that I've worked on that's been One Piece is actually the part 1 of Creative Chronicles that's coming out in November, and it's up online to buy digitally now, actually, but it's going to be part of a 3-part series, and I have to divide it like that because otherwise I'll get bored and I won't do it. But even though I was doing the first 8-page comic, I hated looking at it. I was like, this again. Like, after doing it for maybe a month or two, I was like, I just want to get rid of it. I just want to get rid of it. And then all my work becomes, I wouldn't say sloppy necessarily. It's just not as detailed, and it's not as it's not my actual best. But I learned that that's also okay, because A, nobody knows what's actually happening in my head, and B, perfect doesn't exist. So, like with music where I had the entire song, drums, guitar, backing track, harmonies, how I would perform it on stage, what costume I would wear, how many thousands of fans would be there, blah, 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 blah. I had every single detail of that piece of music in my imagination, and because I couldn't recreate it, and I didn't need at any point to have it finished, it just never actually appeared in any form. There wasn't even a bad version of it out there. So with the art, I make sure that even though I can't see, like, even though I get bored of it and I start to get a little bit sloppier with it, I know that I can always come back and make it better. I can always edit it, but I do want to have at least one finished version of it. So that because finished is better than perfect. Perfect does not exist. Practice makes better because perfect doesn't exist. And also, it just, like, those two things, the perfect doesn't exist, done is better than perfect, and also knowing that people can't see what is in my head is so helpful just to keep reminding myself of it. And so I need basically have those that's how I complete even the smaller projects. Because I've technically started the 2 graphic novels, and I'm doing them side by side because I know that I'm going to get bored and I'm going to need to switch between the 2 to keep myself sane. But because also I haven't done anything like this before, I'm just trying to predict this based on what I know about my own behavior. I'm also extremely terrible at asking for help or advice, and because of that, I've always been like, I have to do this on my own. I have to do this on my own. And there's never been a choice. Even actually, a friend of mine is helping me get some stuff out of, like, I've moved house, but I still have some things at my old place. We were meeting up, and he was saying, like, oh, if you're going back to your old place and if you're in town for that, I can come and help you. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's an option. Like, I just don't think about that. It's been how I've behaved for so long that I just don't know any other way. So because I know that now, and it's something that I'm working on, it's easier for me to also start asking for help. Like, oh, I'm really stuck at this point in my story. What do you think? And I'm less scared about asking people to look at my work in progress and say, like, this isn't done, and I'm probably going to interrupt you like 20 times as you're looking at it to point out all the stuff that I wanted to put in that's not there yet. But can you still have a look at this and let me know what you think? And I've now stopped kind of interrupting people and been like, oh, that shouldn't be there. I wanted to draw that hand better, and that facial expression's wrong. I've stopped doing that because actually it's helpful to see what their reaction is like without me saying what should have been there. And most of the time, I've found that it's actually like, oh, this works, this is really nice. I would do this and this and this, maybe if you wanted some advice about it. And it's usually, it's never the things that I would have wanted to change. It's something completely different that I didn't even recognize, and that's why you should get help. It's so good. So with all that in mind, I'm working on these two projects, and hopefully it will be good. I've started both of them, but because the way that I also draw my comics, I imagine everything like a movie. So I basically draw and write it start to finish, all like as it's chronologically, basically from start to finish. Other people will sometimes write a script, they'll do some sketches, they'll try and like move stuff around so it works a little bit better, but I've not done that because all my projects have been less than 12 pages. A graphic novel is, I think, usually between 150 pages up, and I just can't start drawing it from start to finish because I want there to be like little Easter eggs and to set the story up well and like clues for how the characters are going along their journey in the story. And because that needs planning, that means I'm going to need to do something new that I haven't done before, which I'm going to need help doing. So I'm very excited and scared, and we'll see what happens. I also don't have any deadlines for any of this. I'm going to try and see if I can get a publisher, because a publisher or editor is going to be like, hey, when's chapter 1 finished? And I'll be like, soon, I swear. And they'll be like, cool, the deadline is the 20th of April. I'll be like, okay.
How do you who do you ask for help? You don't have to give names. I'm just curious, like, is it people that you who do the same thing that you do, or do you just ask close friends? Who's helping Nancy be get her I guess thoughts in order sometimes?
With the comics specifically, I'm so lucky, so lucky to have a lot of good friends in the comics community in London. They all do completely different styles, and so even with that, I don't get self-conscious about comparing myself to others, and some of them have been doing this for like up to 20-30 years, which is crazy. And some of them have been doing it for like around the same time as me, or sometimes like now that I'm in the community, I'm starting to meet people that have only been doing it for 1 or 2 years too. And because they are in that, they know what the work is supposed to be, or like how it could be different in terms of style, and they know me better now, so they know my voice in my work. They can give me help specifically with that. But I also do ask people who aren't in the comics community, like close friends again, who don't interact with that often, because if the goal is to get other people who aren't making comics themselves to read the comics, then I'm going to need their opinions as well, because if something is confusing and maybe it made sense to a comic community that like makes that work all the time, so they're also kind of tunnel vision, very narrow focus, they might not spot something that somebody that doesn't do comics will spot. So I like having those two perspectives, something from an expert and then something from someone who doesn't do the thing that I'm doing. But in terms of getting my thoughts in order, if there's anybody around me who's willing to listen, like, I'm very open, and I used to be an oversharer. I've got that under control now, for the most part. But like, I'm very friendly, and if I have a conversation with somebody, I'm very open to sharing the things that I'm struggling with, because again, and it could just be that I'm very lucky, but I've never had that turn out badly. My parents used to be very, they were like, there are very few people in this world you can trust, and, don't share everything with everyone. No, not everyone needs to know your whole life. And not everybody needs to know your whole life, but I've only seen positive things from sharing that with people. So anybody who will listen, if they can help me put my thoughts in order, because the like different perspectives are absolutely incredible to have,